My name is Sheila Corona. Welcome back to another chapter from the Jeshua channelings by Pamela Kribbe. For those of you who are following along with me, I am on page 141, Letting Go of Your Birth Family. And it begins. Dear friends, it gives me great pleasure to be with you again. You are all brave warriors. Your very presence in a physical body on earth today speaks of your great courage and readiness to face up to darkness, within and without, and to throw your light on it, the light of your consciousness. You are warriors in the spiritual sense, and your weaponry consists of both compassion and discernment. One does not overcome the fears and illusions of your reality by love and compassion alone. These essential, predominantly feminine qualities need to be complemented by the masculine qualities of clarity and discernment. Compassion enables you to perceive the core of light in any expression of duality. For instance, to recognize the light of someone's soul, even if their personality is full of negativity. At this point in my spiritual growth, in my, 63 years on the planet, I can't look at another human being and not see that that being has been just as traumatized from the installation of the programming and conditioning that was unique to their situation, of which I have absolutely no clue as to how it has happened for them. So for me to make assumptions about anything regarding that person, I now see is what this is speaking to here, for me anyway. Discernment makes you aware of the presence of fear and power-related energies in any such expression, and it enables you to distance yourself from it, to let it go from your energy field. To know who you are, you have to let go of what you are not. Discernment helps you let go of that which you are not. Discernment is the quote, energy of the sword, the energy that helps you set boundaries for yourself and find your own way. I call it the masculine energy, and it is a necessary complement to the feminine qualities of understanding and forgiveness. I am stressing the importance of the quote, sword of discernment in this channeling, for it is relevant to the issue we will discuss today. Today, I would like to speak of your relationship with your parents and with your birth family in general. When you enter a path of spiritual growth, this issue will, at some point, be in the forefront of your attention. One might look upon your birth in a physical body as a fall into darkness. If you disassociate it from any notions of sin or guilt, the birthing process is really a plunge into the deep that you have consciously decided upon from some part of your soul. At the core of your soul, you have decided to take upon you this present incarnation, and you felt the trust and perseverance needed to, quote, accomplish the mission. However, at the moment you plunge in, so to speak, you are soaked in a state of not knowing, a state of temporary unawareness. As soon as you enter the material reality of Earth, your consciousness becomes veiled or hypnotized by certain illusions, which are nothing but the deeply ingrained habits of the majority of people on earth. That is what I mean when I say programming and conditioning, how each being goes from a teeny tiny baby to the adult that presents itself in the material reality is programmed and conditioned with familial habits, ingrained habits, and moralities and things that have been taught for generation all the way down the line for each and every being. And of course, it's different for each and every being. This is the net that is cast around you. When you enter the earth life, the memory of, quote, the other side is still fresh and alive. But you have no words to express it, no way of communicating the truth of it. The simple things like the unconditional love and safety that surround you everywhere you go. The energy of home is still self-evident to you, like the feel of water to a fish. But then you enter the physical world and the psychological reality of your parents. You reach out to them. You want to keep that sense of home alive, but it seems that you are cut off like a net cast around the, quote, fishy part of you. This is the birth trauma that has physical as well as deeply spiritual aspects to it. And I'd be willing to bet that almost everybody has had that experience. I mean, I now see very clearly how that happens. We tell children, oh, that's your imagination, honey. You're telling stories. Don't be telling people stuff that you couldn't possibly understand that. I don't know where that came from. She's making things up, these kinds of things, right? Especially when the little children say things that adults don't understand where in the hell that could have come from because, and it happens all the time. And it scares some parents instead of, oh, okay, wait a minute. Maybe this kid knows something we don't. Because we're not pre-programmed to look at each other as vehicles for divinity. As soon as we really get that in our consciousness that these physical human vessels are the container for divinity, and it's no different for a baby than it is for an adult. It is up to us not to program each other. And we're getting it. We are getting it. I feel like very soon everybody's going to see it for themselves. Mm-hmm. Most specifically because of what's going on the world stage. That is folks working on stuff and it becoming more visible on the out there because nothing comes from out there in, it comes from in here out. That net, the net that catches you as you fall is predominantly spun by your parents' way of being, their basic outlook of life, their ways of relating to themselves, their hopes and desires for you. When you were born, the collective consciousness on earth was still in the grip of ego-based consciousness, as it is even now. Times are changing, but there is a kind of beginning stage in which things need time to gain momentum before a real fundamental change is actually brought about. At present, you are still in these beginning stages, and the inner work you do is vital with that in this respect. So when you entered Earth, you entered a reality dominated by ego-based consciousness, and you got acquainted with it through the energy of your parents. When you enter the reality of ego-based consciousness as represented by your parents, you get to deal with a number of pervasive illusions, of which I wish to name 3 important ones. Number 1, the loss of mastery. The first illusion is the illusion of the loss of mastery. This illusion makes you forget, while you grow up and become an adult, that you are the creator of everything that happens in your life. Most people do not recognize what happens in their life as their own creation. They often feel they are a victim of, quote, greater powers that make and shape their life. This is the loss of mastery. Number two, the loss of unity. With the plunge into collective human consciousness as portrayed by your parents, you also lose your sense of unity with all that lives. The basic realization of the, quote, oneness of all things is slowly filtered out of your consciousness. You are encouraged to build your own ego. According to ego-based consciousness, we are all essentially separate beings, struggling for our own existence, struggling for survival, nourishment, and acknowledgement. We seem to be confined to our own body and locked into our own psychological reality, with no true and open connection to the other, quote, the other. This is the illusion of separation and the tragic sense of loneliness that accompanies it. Number three, the loss of love. And then there is the loss of love, meaning the sense of unconditional joy and safety that belongs to the very heart of you like a natural birthright. As you enter the earth plane on which the energy of love is not self-evident at all, you gradually start to confuse love with all kinds of energies that are not love, such as admiration, wealth, or emotional dependency. These confused notions of love affect your relationships and basically make you continually search for something outside of you to regain that sense of unconditional love that is actually deep inside. And I've maintained that for a long time on this channel, that each being's definition of love is completely separate from any other being's definition. And it is solely based on the treatments, on the programming, on the conditioning, the way the child was raised, what they experienced. I know I myself heard these words from my mother: I only spank you because I love you. I know that those words came out of my mouth as well. OMG. What kind of twisted thing is that? And then we wonder why there's some issues out in the world, right? So that's just one tiny example, right, of how we do these things without even realizing it. How these illusions or losses affect you depends on the specific energy of your parental house and your family environment. Generally, the parental consciousness is a mixture of ego and heart, of fear and light. There are certain areas in which your parents are likely to be very attached to or hooked up with the illusions mentioned above. But at other points, they may be quite enlightened. For instance, by having experienced suffering and inner growth in some area which opened up their hearts. Well, you know what? I have to say, I think in my case, I was just flashed this. This is why I think I grew up kind of knowing that morality is also a very subjective and intimate thing that is very tied to programming and conditioning, familial raising, most folks hold in their fields pretty much the same morals as their parents. That's very interesting that that was just shown to me in that way. The specific way in which they are stuck in the illusions of ego, the ego-based consciousness, is different for each parent or family, and that that's why I say it. That's what makes us all unique, actually. When you enter this specific configuration of energies that makes up your birth family, your consciousness is wide open with hardly a sense of personal boundaries yet. As a baby, you take in your parents' energies very thoroughly, like a basic imprint that has a deep effect on how you experience things later. In science, it's called engrams. The way I read an article a long time ago, they claim that anything that happens in the life of a child from the birth to 7 is a basic operating system. And it built and in some cases, like in mine, and I feel like in everybody's, because I've witnessed this now, trauma happens from the installation of said programming across the board. I've seen it happen. It's so innocent. When you think of trauma, you think of horrible things, something that like a huge accident, or that's what, or terrible abuse or things like that when you think of trauma. But I would like for you to think about this for a moment. Let's say you're 2 and you're just exploring your world, and you know the truth about who you are, but you can't communicate this to your parental units, and you do something that you can do, or that in here you can do, or in here that you can do, but it scares the parents or whatever, and they react and they tell you no, and all that sort of thing. And that's very confusing to a creator who realizes that they don't really know anything, and these folks supply everything, and eventually all of that gets put aside, and then trauma begins building on top of it. I don't know, just feel into that for yourself, and I'd love to hear in the comments what you think about what I just said, what this is, what Jeshua is speaking on here. I would love to get a conversation going about this, because the more folks question this and consider this, the more we can see and transition from an ego-based consciousness into a heart-based consciousness. For me, again, this transition is what I mean when I say the Christ, the second coming, is spread out throughout humanity. Everyone's getting the chance to consider this for themselves. So I'm going to read that again. As a baby, you take in your parents' energies very thoroughly, like a basic imprint that has a deep effect on how you experience. It says things later, but I'm going to say everything for your entire life until you start seeing it for yourself. There is no filter yet. It is only much later, when you become aware of yourself as yourself, roughly during puberty, that you grow the consciousness needed to sift through these energies and find out what feels good and natural to you and what does not. First, you attach yourself very strongly to the paradigm of your parents. And then, as you grow older and gain more self-awareness, you start to question your parents' outlook on things, as you are looking for your own sense of identity. This psychological growth process is very much akin to the transition from ego-based consciousness to heart-based consciousness. the natural stages of Earth life, the biological and psychological cycles and seasons correlate with natural growth stages in the spiritual sense. Wow, I'm being shown a spiral right now. And that's why things come back around. Like for me, I'm being shown that um, it's like part of a concept or darkness issue that I'm working on comes around. I work on it, and then as that it doesn't go around in a perfect circle. It's a spiral. So when it comes around next time, I've gotten a little bit better handle on it, and then it goes around, and I can see even more the next time it comes around, and then even more the next time it comes around. And or because what I'm also now being reminded is that there's also the downward spiral as well, when one runs and hides from oneself, and it depends on each soul and what they decided or chose they wanted to experience here. You know what I mean? I wish you could answer me, but back to the book. The transition from ego to heart based consciousness often runs parallel with overcoming the limiting, fearful energies that controlled your birth family. The cosmic birth trauma that you experience when you are born as an individual soul, which was discussed in the cosmic birthing pain chapter just prior, is to some extent repeated every time you begin a new earth life. At the time of your birth, your parents belong to the energy of the earth. They have already adapted to this dimension, to the laws that apply here. Often these are limiting laws, which are not at all self evident to the child, which is when the trauma of installed programming begins, to be honest with you, and just builds over time. The parents thus represent the ego based consciousness for the child, the energy of the three illusions. The child meets these through the parental home, and the way in which they have taken shape in the parents will influence the child strongly for the rest of their life. It's especially in the first 3 months, the child takes in its surroundings very deeply. That's the engrams. It's like the conscious awareness is so present and on point in a child. It's like a sponge. They take in every single thing, even if it's not understood. And in those moments, it's like a recorder. It's in there, whether they understand it at that moment or not. At some point, they will. This is how, in my view, uh, children pick up things because they're in the energy field of it. The energies of the parents, sink into the child's consciousness unhampered by rational thought or defense. On the other hand, there is still a, quote, piece of heaven in its memory, a part of the child's consciousness that is untainted by the illusions, that knows love, mastery, and oneness as the natural state of being. This awareness collides with the ego based energies around it, and this is a deeply painful conflict. It can make the child want to turn around and go back home, quote, home. It can cause grave resistance to the life at the very start. It is actually the cosmic birth trauma repeated over again. How does the child handle this collision or conflict of energies? Most often, it shuts down some parts of him or herself. Some parts of the child's consciousness will go into hiding. And I know this to be true. I because I've experienced it. And this is what I'm working towards to I think it has that mine is tied to the inner child's consciousness. I feel that very much so. The child will tend to comply with the energies of the parents, adapt itself to them, for it is wholly dependent upon them from the start. The child is in a very vulnerable physical state, and it has a great desire to be nurtured and loved by the parents. Its memory of the natural state of oneness, love, and mastery is actually the child's gift to the parents. But they are often unable to receive this gift once they have been veiled by the energy of the illusions. Boy, I feel the deepness of that, and I feel the truth in that statement. They are thus unable to truly receive the child. Parents have at some point been children as well, of course, and have gone through the same process. Parents do not consciously force their fears and illusions onto their children. This is what I was saying. It's totally innocent on the part of the beings, the parents involved. Again, I watched this happen. The parent was a loving parent. It was a totally innocent situation, but it was still a trauma inducing, like a fracture of them not trusting themselves and their thoughts about the situation. It's a very one has to really be centered and present to be able to witness that and say nothing, by the way, because everybody has to learn for themselves. Everybody chooses, everybody comes here to experience. It's not my place, certainly, to call it out. I did one time point, I wanted to show how I saw that this is not, I mean, it sounds like an accusatory thing to the being who actually said the words, right? That I could see where they could hear something like that defensively. But I know for a fact where it came from, because in this case, it was myself and my son and my granddaughter. And I know, I just know. And I just put it out there for consideration. Witness what I talk about on my YouTube channel, pal, because you just helped me see it for myself in real big order. And it's innocent. And that's why it's easy for me now to see that this is how each one of us have been fashioned into the beings that we are, beings of light and dark. However, as adults, they have unwittingly absorbed many energies of ego based consciousness. Yep, the further away we get from that Godhead memory and the more programming and the trauma, it just builds and builds and builds until we begin to ask questions. And for me, listen for the answer. At the moment of the birth of the child, parents often experience a temporary awakening. Watching this innocent little creature coming out of the womb, entrusting itself to the world so open and vulnerable, stirs a deep sense of awe in almost anyone. This sacred moment opens the gates to home wide open to the parents, consciousness, and they unknowingly reach out to the divine core inside of them that knows unconditional love and oneness. They enter a sacred space for a while, and they feel who they are beyond the illusions. But often this is a temporary state of bliss, because afterwards things will settle down and, quote, get back to normal. Their ways of thinking and feeling will tend to fall back into the patterns they were used to, and thus the opening to heart-based consciousness closes down again. And what happens to the child that grows up? Most children choose to adapt so strongly to the parental frame of reference that they lose touch with their original soul energy that they were still very much aware of in the beginning of their incarnation. In this first phase of life, until puberty, they are so involved in focusing themselves into this world and getting love and attention from their parents that they themselves now forget who they are. How does this affect the child? The child has an unbridled longing for love and safety, and when it stumbles upon fearful, blocked parts in the parent's energies, that child will be confused by them. It will experience pain and a sense of abandonment, but it will hide these emotions from itself because they are too painful to fully realize when you are in such a state of vulnerability and openness. Oh my God, I just was shown something about my son. Wow. Oh, wow. I was told by, I have to, I'm sorry. I hope if you don't like it, that's fine. I get it. But I have to get this out. I was told by a psychic years ago. Let's see, how long ago has it been now? About 9 years ago. There was no way she could have known me. I'd never heard of her before. I won a 15-minute reading that I didn't get. So we made arrangements to have lunch. All she had was my first name. We met for the first time in a public place. She didn't even see the car. I was in there for, when I got in there, she was already there. So she didn't even see the car I drove up in. She told me that my child, my son, there's no way she could have ever known I only had one child, wanted to come incarnate here to experience anger and chose me as parent because he knew that I would offer him unconditional love no matter how he treated me. Those were her words. Because he wanted to experience anger. She also said specifically wanted to experience it as male, and that he had tried to come into my life once earlier and the child was female, so he left, which also makes perfect sense because nobody ever knew that I had lost a child, and I always believed with my heart of hearts that it was female. Anyway, wow. Well, the whole thing about, I've always known that on some level he's much more of a master. He has so much divinity and power on board, but it's like it's stuck, and I mean, I can see it in there, and because it's stuck behind that wall of anger, right? He wasn't going to have children, and then a baby girl appeared to him in a dream. He told me this and asked if he would consider being her father, and he agreed. So I have said, I feel as though he made a new sacred contract with another being and now his challenge, should he choose to accept it, is to move from that anger to the unconditional love. That will require the tapping in to his own. Boy, that feller took on a really big challenge right here at the transitional stage that we are in here on earth. Wow. Okay, sorry. I just had to get that out. I'm going to read that again. How does this affect the child? The child has an unbridled longing for love and safety. And when it stumbles upon fearful blocked parts in the parent's energies, and remember, boy, he stumbled across some blocked stuff in me hugely. I was running from myself so hard. I got to 490 pounds and I was sick for 12 years, laying on my deathbed and not be housebound or deathbed, just in bed, um, bedridden, months, surgeries, it just months in the hospital. I was running so hard for myself. Oh my gosh. It will experience pain and a sense of abandonment, of course, but it will hide these emotions from itself because they too are too painful to fully realize when you are in such a state of vulnerability and openness. What the child will do is put on blindfolds and create illusionary images of love to survive emotionally. It will allow itself to be confused by the false images of the parents because if unconditional love is not available, conditional love seems better than none. And I know that is the way it is for every child. The child will generally bend over backwards to get the love and safety it needs and remembers from home, and therefore it will mistake the wrong energies for love. For example, it will confuse love with a parent's pride in certain achievements or a parent's emotional need for the child. Whenever the child achieves something that makes the parents proud and the child is complimented for it, they may feel their heart open up from gladness that they are liked and appreciated. But if the parental pride is not from a source of genuine understanding of the child, if it is not based upon what the child itself aspires to, but more on what society expects from the child, then the pride is really a kind of poison. The child is rewarded for living up to external standards, whereas love means that one gets in touch with the child's inner standards, what they want to achieve in this lifetime for themselves. When attention is systematically focused on outer achievements, the child will be fooled into believing that achievement equals love, and they will tend to grow a guilty conscience when they are not doing, quote, what is right, what they are supposed to do according to the external standards. As an adult, they may become someone who does not recognize when their boundaries are crossed or when they are working too hard. They will simply find that they feel the urge to achieve all the time, not understanding why working hard has become such an addiction. Wow. Can you not feel that? Again, something so innocent as being proud of a child's external achievements could install that. But I can see it. I can sure see it from that perspective. Another distortion of the true energy of love is when the child starts to confuse love with emotional dependency. Many children feel loved when they feel needed by their parents. They are actually filling a hole in their parent's heart, a hole that the parents have not taken care of themselves. And when the child steps into it, it offers itself as a substitute parent. It seeks to provide the love and support the parents are missing inside. In this way, it wants to please the parents and get the love it so sorely needs. But this kind of service is not love, of course. It is a dangerous entanglement of energies that will create a lot of difficulties later on in both the relationship between the parents and the child, and in the intimate relationships that the child will enter into as an adult. Many parents have experienced a lack of unconditional love in their own childhood. They were not truly received by their parents either. This has left a deep-seated pain and a sense of abandonment in their being, and I know for a fact that I still deal with that all the time. Thinking that, I'm practicing being there for myself, and I see that I have this, and I know now too that that is part of the original wound. It still comes up. I still find, that's what I mean when I say I find things hiding around the corner in the dark, underneath and behind the dust bunnies, that are attached to this over here that I thought that I had experienced all the way through and let go. Sometimes it's just attached to a different part of the program. And that's why it will come around again for me. So I'm going to read that again. Many parents have experienced a lack of unconditional love in their own childhood, and I would say all of them. There's, very, very few instances where there's not some kind of programming, familial, generational programming and conditioning from society, right? Many parents have experienced a lack of unconditional love in their own childhood. They were not truly received by their parents either. This has left a deep-seated pain and a sense of abandonment in their being. When they have a child themselves, they embrace it with mixed signals. On the one hand, there is genuine love in them, but on the other hand, there is the subconscious need to, quote, make up for the loss. And I know that when my child was born, I knew that this was one being that would always love me no matter what. And that's, I'm not sure if that was a great thing, but I knew I would always love him. So I knew the psychic was right about that part, right? Parents often try to heal their own emotional wounds through the relationship with their child. I think that I may have been trying to do that, yes. When they do so, unconsciously, they use the child as a substitute parent. The child needs to give them the love they so sorely missed in their own childhood. I'm sure that was part of it too. Yes, absolutely, for me. When that happens, the messages, quote, I love you and, quote, I need you get completely mixed up for the child. The child's energy will not be her own anymore because it will feel sucked up by the parent's need. And this being sucked up will actually feel good to the child. Wait a minute. Really? Wait a minute. I might have skipped something here. The child's energy will not be her own anymore because it will feel sucked up by the parent's need. And this being sucked up will actually feel good to the child. Yes. It will provide a false sense of safety, which by the time the child is an adult will make her feel like she is being loved deeply by someone when her energy is depleted and owned by that person. Wow, that's so true. I can see how that connection really is there. And it's just it's so subtle, that programming and conditioning. We will feel loved and appreciated when she is stretching her limits to give the most she can. She will interpret emotional dependency, even jealousy and possessiveness, as a form of love, whereas these energies are diametrically opposed to it. I know that's true. With all of me, I know that's true. This tragic loss of self is born from the association of love with need. So far, I have stressed that when you come to Earth as a child, you are submerged into, quote, an ocean of forgetfulness, a net of illusions that at first seem to tie you down very thoroughly. However, from the soul level, you consciously allow yourself to be led astray. That's a very important point here, for me anyway, because to think otherwise is disempowering, first of all, and it's not so. The soul, the divinity's decision to leap into the physicality was a choice. And I really believe that with all of me. So, however, from the soul level, you consciously allow yourself to be led astray. Deep down inside, when you incarnate on earth, you trust that you will find the solution and the way out. It is your mission to find the way out of the illusions and to bring the quote energy of the solution, the energy of love and clarity out into the world, available to others. That's how we help, by the way. Not do I mean it's all about the healing of the self because it's such an individual, unique path to do so. We can assist each other, absolutely, but no one being has the absolute way to do it for you. You have to find that. Like I said, we can help each other. I can point you right back to you because I can point me right back to me. I'm getting pretty damn good at it. I don't let nothing about me slide. That's the thing, see, for me. I'm very tenacious about this for myself now. I don't let myself slide. The minute I see it, I call it out for myself. Not not in a hateful way, but in a loving, oh, I see what you're doing there kind of way, right? And what is being described here as your mission, this is another reason why I feel to call it a quest. It is your mission to find the way out of the illusions and to bring the energy of the solution, the energy of love and clarity out into the world and available to others. Any movie that has a quest involved, go watch Labyrinth and hold the mind open and think of humanity as a collective and the choice to move through things to their logical conclusions to come to the realization you have no power over me. Only I have that power over me. Wow. At certain times in your life, there will be opportunities and possibilities that will help you fulfill this mission as you grow up. And that's what I said. No matter how I've labeled my life in the past, mistake or whatever. No, 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 no. That was training ground. That was training ground for the time I would now know I'm on a mission to find the quest, to find my way out of the illusion to the truth of who I am. That was all designed to help me. Oh, that was preparatory school for my individual unique quest. And I'll have no hostages on my quest, by the way. That's why, the letting go of the birth family, is absolutely imperative because that's dragging people into, your quest, which is quite different. um, wow. At certain times in your life, there will be opportunities and possibilities that will help you fulfill this mission. They just may not look like what you think they are. As you grow up, you will meet certain people or situations that will invite or challenge you to find out who you are. You will be gently pushed, or if you are stubborn, violently provoked by life to quote, detangle the knot. You need to let go of the false images of love that were part of your upbringing, part of your parents' energy. This may trigger an identity crisis similar to what has been described in the first part of this book as the first stage in the transition from ego to heart, which is another reason why I do see it as a sliding scale. It's not linear. Um, you know, we are entrained in way to feel the linearness because of the way we are focusing ourselves into this particular reality at this time. It's a collective agreement, in my view, that the physical has time. Time doesn't exist outside of this. That's the only way we can all be one and yet singular all at the same time. Multidimensionality is the only way that works. And consciousness is everywhere, everything all at once. That movie came out for a reason. It may seem that nothing is certain anymore and that everything you believed is under scrutiny, and by golly, that's where I'm at. Every single thing. Indeed, your soul will leave no stone unturned to bring you home. I do feel like that. Your soul will knock on your door incessantly until you open up and set yourself free. I think that's true. Major events in your life are always geared to offer you opportunities to grow and return to who you are. But it takes courage and determination to get to the bottom of this quest and to regain the energies of the newborn child, untainted by the illusions of the loss of mastery, love, and oneness. You will likely find yourself opposed to your own soul energy for a while, for it may lead you astray from what you regarded as normal and befitting for you. Your soul may seem a wayward guest to you as you have been getting used to the ways of the world, the ways of your birth family. Yeah, you know what? My ego considered for a while how similar the entrance of my higher self feels close, very close to all the stories of uh, walk-ins or uh, um, I won't say possession because that seems to be a wholly different thing, uh, but it gives the same flavor, right? So, but I also know that those are stories from out there. So that's why discernment is so key, right? That each quest is the whole point is to get in here and to trust self, right? That for me anyway. Your soul may seem a wayward guest to you as you have been getting used to the ways of the world, the ways of the birth family. It takes both the male energy of self consciousness and discernment and the female energy of love and understanding to release yourself from ego based consciousness. This is why, in my view, we see so much out there right now about the male and female in all quarters, in all topics, most especially in the confusion thereof. Regarding your parents' discernment means regarding your parents just regarding your parents, comma, sorry. Discernment means that you distance yourself from the fear-ridden and limiting egos they have fed you. Remember the importance of the quote energy of the sword that I mentioned in the beginning. To let go of your birth family in the spiritual sense, you need to be able to distinguish between their energy and your own. And you need to be able to, quote, cut the cords that limit and suffocate you. This is where boundaries come in, right? This is not primarily about expressing anger and frustration to your parents or telling them they were wrong about you. It may be a good thing sometimes to try to make clear to them your position on things or your feelings about them. But in many cases, they may not understand what you are trying to tell them. They may not resonate with the part of you that is, quote, different and at odds with their outlook on life. And trust me when when I say to you that it's not always the parent that can't hear, right? When one because I am the one on my quest in earnest. And so, it's not always the child that is having to cut the cords, is what I'm trying to say here, right? That's right. Releasing the ties to the parental energy means first and foremost to release the energy from your own mind and emotions. Now, luckily for me, since I didn't have my mother was not emotionally available, my father was not in the picture, my great grandmother was quite overbearing, and thank God she was there, and I got a lot of really great stuff from her. But so I really kind of feel like that wasn't very hard for me, but there was still a lot of programming and conditioning because there still is even. It is about looking within and finding out to what extent you implicitly live by your parents' set of illusions, by their do's and don'ts, which were based on fear and judgment, and really by all of society, because we get programmed and conditioned in lots of different ways from lots of different quarters. Once you are clear about this and you allow yourself to let that go, you will be free to forgive them and really, quote, leave the parental house. It is only after you sever the cords on the inner level and take responsibility for your own life that you can really let your parents be. You will have clearly said no to their fears and illusions, which is the sort of discernment. But at the same time, you will see that your parents are not identical with their fears and illusions. They also are children of God, simply trying to fulfill their soul mission. Once you feel this, you can feel their innocence and forgive. And I say that is possible on every level because there is not one being on this planet that hasn't experienced just what this is. In my experience so far, I'm 63 years old and I have yet to meet a non traumatized being because everybody has some kind of trauma somewhere in their being. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here now because this is the whole point of this transition. We are moving from one ego-based consciousness to heart-based consciousness. I can see it, man. I know y'all got to be able to. I mean, we've been saying on every channel I've been involved with that that sort of like heinous activity and things like that is no longer supported. It's not. In a sense, you have been the victim of your parents as they represented uh, ego based consciousness in your childhood. You have temporarily and partly lived according to their illusions. In a way, you had no choice as their child. However, to transit, and I want to state for me personally that I feel that I came in here specifically to overcome that, to see if I could be programmed so deep to not believe the truth of who I was and then embark upon a mission. And I had the choice throughout the entire life because I can clearly see now in my linear past where the question had come up before because my consciousness was like bubbling under the surface and I was looking into things but then I started running away and I got sick and yeah, so I mean I can see exactly what's been going on here for me anyway. I want to say that because it does say here, in a way, you had no choice as their child. I, however, contend that I set this up. I chose who I was going to be born to, and I knew that there was the possibility that these sorts of things would be experienced, and that is exactly what I signed up for because it's preparing me for what I'm doing now with my quest. And trust me when I tell you that I'm having a fabulous time learning this for myself, seeing this, being shown all of this in ways that bring on this inner peace. I guess that's what they mean when they say the peace that passes all understanding. I don't know, it's very interesting. However, to transcend your sense of being the victim here no, 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 sorry. I'm going to start that over. You have temporarily and partly lived according to their illusions. In a way, you had no choice as their child. However, to transcend your sense of being the victim here is one of the most powerful breakthroughs you can have in your life. It makes you a free person when you can recognize the deep energetic imprints from your childhood and consciously decide which ones benefit you and which ones you'd rather let go. This is mastery. And I suspect we're seeing that on a world scale right now because that's what that looks like. That's what the external looks like to me. The question is being asked, who are you? And the collective is sorting through. That is why I say this over here appears to be no longer supported because there's an awful lot of beings and there's a lot of evidence that it's being sorted out there. You then no longer subconsciously adapt to the wishes and longings of your parents when they are not your own. At the same time, you no longer rebel against them either. You can see the false images they offered you as simply not belonging to you, period. You do not need to judge your parents for burdening you with these aspects. No, because you have no idea what all went into their perspective that they passed along to you. Because there was trauma, there was hurt, there was all kinds of stuff contained in that energy. And it's all the same. You do not need to judge your parents for burdening you with these aspects. You can be loving and discerning at the same time. Well, for me, and this may not be for everyone, but for me, I'm very grateful that because I feel like I got exactly what I ordered up, especially for the way I'm feeling right now. Because apparently I feel like I set up a bunch of redundancies in my life because I can clearly look back, and this is where linear focusing uh, aging, if you will, adds the personality, allows the personality, should it be willing, to see the reality of what took place from the perspective of, wait a minute, had this over here not happened, this right here wouldn't be happening. And that I had adjudged as horrible, right? You can be loving and discerning at the same time. It's a choice. One might say that you are introduced to ego based consciousness through your parents, and you transcend it through them as well by letting them go in love and forgiveness, and by recognizing yourself as the independent master that you are. Me personally, I really kind of feel like there's nothing to forgive with my parents, because if I indeed um, contracted with them, I'm actually grateful. I feel it's been a great success, this coming to consciousness. It is, at least in some ways, their actual, what people can hold as a screw up or whatever, that that I've been able to make it to this point. Because trust when I say to you, I was on my way off the planet. Not 9 years ago, not 10 years ago. Well, it's been 10 now, but light workers and their parents. At this point, I would like to speak specifically about the light worker soul in relation to his or her birth family. Light workers often carry within them an extra assignment in regard to their parents or birth family. When they come to Earth, light workers have the specific intention to awaken, to set themselves free, which is why I say I think I set up. I know myself, and I don't wake up very easy, so I set 5 alarm clocks. You know what I mean? This is what I'm looking back in my life. I can clearly see. Well, that was an alarm clock I hit snooze on. You know, I mean, it just feels like that to me. You know, when I look at my life. So light workers have the specific intention to awaken, to set themselves free from ego based consciousness, and to plant the seeds of Christ consciousness on earth. More strongly than others, light workers want to teach and heal others, helping them grow towards a heart based consciousness. This is why I see, sense, and feel the desire in all of the beings that call themselves light workers. My and I, because I was there too, man. Oh, come to me, let me do Reiki for you, let me tell you, let me help you. But the truth of it is, we can point, but we got to point back in internally, because nothing anybody else teaches takes the place of what you will inform you about. And there's too many that, think they made it and whatnot, when indeed there's still a lot of that programming and conditioning internally for all of us. So anyway, for that reason, many lightworker souls are born with parents or in families which are heavily stuck in the reality of ego-based consciousness, because it is their intention to break open and to break open stuck and rigid energy patterns. Lightworkers are drawn like a magnet to quote problem situations in which the energy is stagnant, like in a dead end alley. The light workers come in with a different awareness, a certain spiritual sense, which makes him or her, quote, different, not fitting into the family's expectations or ambitions. The lightworker child will somehow, by what she radiates or expresses as her truth, challenge the family's basic assumptions about life. She almost instinctively will do everything to get the energy moving and flowing again. Knowing the the DNA line that I incarnated into, I feel like that's a true statement for reals. While the light worker soul thus wants nothing more than to be of service to the parents and the family, they might look upon her as the odd one out, even as the black sheep. How many people I've heard say that? When the inner beauty and purity of the light worker child is not recognized as such, she will often temporarily get lost in emotions of loneliness and even depression. Oh, hands up, 28 years treated for clinical depression. Yes, that's right. When they start their incarnation, light workers have the confidence deep down that they will find their way out, that they will overcome the limiting energy of their birth family. However, when they are actually born on earth and grow up, they are exposed to the same dilemmas and confusions as any other child. In a certain sense, they experience this confusion more deeply and more intensely because they are spiritually aware souls who are often older and wiser than their parents. They are very much aware that, quote, something is not right about the energy of their environment. Oh, yes. Take a look at some photos of newborn children coming in now. Mm, I'm telling you, the ones that aren't, there are some coming in that won't be staying long. Yes, this is true. But there are some. Hmm. I see, sense, and feel this statement right here immediately upon entry. On the inner level, they clash head on with the parents' energies, not understanding or resonating with their mindset or behavior. This clash causes great distress inside them, gentle and sensitive as they are. They have to find a way to survive emotionally, coping with the fact that they both love the parents dearly and are very different from them. This causes a lot of psychological problems in light workers, ranging from loneliness, insecurity, fear, fear to addiction, depression, and self destruction. No, there's a lot of that. Bear with me. There we go. Sorry about that. I had to take care of something on my desktop there. Thus, your journey to Earth and to places of darkness where the energy is stuck and hostile is not without risk. It is a dangerous mission. Don't forget why I call you brave warriors. It is for this reason. You are like pioneers who venture out into strange and unknown territory. There are no signposts or markers. This is why I say, don't be trusting that somebody knows the way because there ain't no signposts. Each one is individual. You have to decide if you want to start your own quest. I personally feel like we can all quest together. Well, that's what I've experienced in this household. Let me just say. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Do embarking on one's individuated, unique quest in company. Oh, I'm telling you, that's powerful and helpful. At least for me, I think it was required. It was required. That's why I set up multiple redundancies to get to this part that I'm at now, it would appear to me. Um, so there are no signposts or markers. The environment in which you start your journey is inhospitable and does not feel like home. You will have to create the energy of home for yourself with only your own feelings and intuition as your compass. As a light worker, you are a pioneer who wants to break the barriers of old and stifling thought patterns and release the energy stuck within. You are almost always the first one in your environment to do so. Well, you know what? That is part of the reason why I say, um, wow, I've always said that I used to get invited to parties even at 490 pounds because everybody knew I'd be the first one out on the dance floor. I got people talking, that kind of thing. I was even asked by somebody one time, why are fat people so jolly? Oh, that was a fun question to answer, let me just say. Yeah, I was probably right at my heaviest when that question was asked of me. You do not meet your soulmates until later. I think that's true too. Because you can't see them. Even if they're in your life, you can't see them. You don't know. At least I think that's what happened for me. Uh, you do not meet your soulmates until later. It is the struggle by yourself that marks you as the true warrior that you are. You will have to find the way out by yourself. And once you have done so, you will attract like minded spirits into your life, people who will reflect your awakened state of being. This is true, I feel, very true. The solitary struggle you all have to go through to discover your light is the heaviest burden for you. On the soul level, you have chosen this path consciously, but but to live through it as a child of flesh and blood is a painful, no, no, is a, no, it is a painful thing that wounds you deeply. I urge you to feel and recognize this pain in yourself. That is an important thing. Feeling our feelings and emotions all the way through. Things can no longer be suppressed, oppressed, denied, belied. That energy is no longer supported in my eyes or in my field. Let's put it that way. I know that I carry a field of transparency with me because I want to see everything about me. And so, stepping into my field, sometimes folks see things about themselves that they're not ready to see, and I rub them completely the wrong way. Yeah, folks either love me or they hate me. There's no, there really doesn't seem to be there's only two camps, it would seem. I urge you to feel and recognize this pain in yourself because only by connecting to it can you transform and release it. Once you know that wounded child inside that took the cross of alienation upon its fragile shoulders, you will get to the core of your burden. When you get to the core, the solution is nearby. You only need. Wow, I was just flashed something that happened. That's a true statement no matter what. I gotta, we will, if y'all are really interested in what flashed into my head, comment below what went through your head when Sheila, when you were reading. You only need to embrace the pain of that child with a pure and deep awareness. No, I'm sorry, this part. Once you know that the wounded child inside that took the cross of alienation upon its fragile shoulders, you will get to the core of your burden. And this is the statement right here. When you get to the core, my phone definitely agrees. When you get to the core, the solution is nearby. That is what, if you want to know what flashed in my head, comment below, because that is a conversation all on its own, a conscious conversation, and not just with me and you. Well, it doesn't have to be you. It could be me and this other being, and you could tune in. If I mean, lots. Most people don't want. I have these conversations, which is so sad, but okay. You only need to embrace the pain that you only need to embrace the pain of that child with a pure and deep awareness. From this awareness, an energy of compassion and deep respect will reach out to the child. You will lift the cross just by being with yourself and truly loving and cherishing that part of you that is different. It's no wonder people are trying to change what they are into something different by any means necessary. You see how what's being worked out in here is being presented on the world stage, expressed outwardly. This is how you bring the child home and fulfill your mission as the pioneer that you are. Resolving family karma. The light worker's assignment in regard to their birth family is to become who they are. In doing so, they accomplish their mission. It is not their task to change their family. And this is where light workers get it all twisted. No. I myself did the same thing. Well, I never really called myself a light worker, but I wanted to save everybody with the information I was pulling on board that I just knew were true and it was for you and I got the right way for you. I now see nothing could be further from the truth because it is an individuated journey. We can assist, we can walk each other home, we can make suggestions about what worked for us, but hey, it might not work for you. You might want to take a portion of it, feel into it for yourself, ask yourself some questions about it, those sorts of things. But that's all any of us can do is make suggestions about how we see it and don't be attached to they gotta get it because from their perspective they didn't experience what you've experienced with that, whatever it is. Pick a topic, it doesn't matter what it is. Your perspective is always only your perspective. And it's what's good for the goose is never completely exactly duplicatable with the gander. Sorry. That's just not how it goes. So, the light worker's assignment in regard to their birth family is to become who they are. In doing so, they accomplish their mission. It is not their task to change their family. It is not your job to change anything outside of you. You are not here to make the world a better place. You are here to awaken yourself. And yes, when you do so, the world will become a better place because your light will shine upon it and bring joy and enlightenment to others as well. But do not focus on the world, whether it is your family or any other relationship you enter. The real work is to let go of all those bits of ego based fear and illusion that you yourself absorbed so deeply as a child. That's a big enough job, I see. For me, that's a big enough job. I ain't got time to help you. I mean, I could tell you where I am in my journey. We could, no, I don't want to say commiserate because that's not the right way to look at that. But, we can chat about it or whatever. And you may find something useful, especially if you're drawn to me. Usually that means there's something there for both of us. If I'm drawn to you and you're drawn to me, we could have some codes, keys, information, data exchange, memories that could be activated, all kinds of things. That's why if folks hold themselves back out of some fear for something, we don't know what could take place. There's a reason folks are drawn. If I just present myself and someone's drawn to me and I'm drawn to them, there's a reason there because there's a frequential. For me, I have a very I'm dedicated to this quest of finding out the truth of who I am. So I actively seek more data about who the truth of who I am. And I pull it into my vessel here and I am practicing the feeling of knowing what is true and what is not for me. I don't have answers for anyone else. I can guide. We all can do that sort of thing. Getting to know these energetic imprints, which partly created your personality, and releasing the parts of it that do not belong to you is a challenging and intense process. This is why I said I got no time I can't do nothing for nobody but me. It is about peeling away all the layers of the onion. It is about being born a second time. This is why I call it the second coming, because it is. It feels like it. It feels so much like that. By stressing the profundity of this inner process, this second birth, I do not mean to discourage you. On the other hand, I would like you to have deep respect for yourselves. You are the bravest warriors I know. You are pioneers who, by kindling your own light in places of darkness and hostility, paved the way for a new consciousness on earth. And I see it dawning everywhere. I don't know how anyone could look out there and not see this new consciousness. I mean, everywhere you look, folks are talking about the great awakening, this, and even in another instance, the woke. I mean, we've got never more clearly could duality be on display, if you ask me, on the world stage. So I think the kindling of our own light in places of darkness and hostility are paving the way for new consciousness on earth. Remember, these channelings came in, I think the last one's in, what was it, 2007, I think that's what that said. I have to go back here and look now. I want to know. Because the part two series here that we started is the live channelings. Yeah, the public channelings 2003 to 2006. So this channeling was in between that time. So look at what we got going on now. You can so clearly see that that is the case. It is not your job to kindle the light in someone else's heart. It is up to them if they do so. You may offer a spark, you may set an example, but in no way are you responsible for anyone else's awakening. I'm going to tell you, that has been the most freeing part of this right here because I can't change nobody, no way. Number one. Number two, I see very clearly why my perspective is completely different from yours. It's meant to be. I've had wholly different experiences than you. This is important to stress, especially with regard to your birth family. You often feel instinctively as a child and more consciously as a grown up that you have to save your parents from their fears and illusions. And in my case, my child, because I went through that. And then I went into panic over my grandchild. Right? Yeah, I did. Moreover, you often think that you have failed in this assignment. I do not feel that way anymore. You feel that you have not truly been able to help your parents in the way you had envisioned. This line of thought rests on a mistaken perception of what helping really means and what your assignment is with regard to your parents. and I would say with all beings myself, in reality, the situation is this: from your birth onward, you begin to absorb your parents' energies very strongly, as if they were your own. You cannot easily distinguish anymore where you begin and they end. Because you absorb their fears and illusions as well, you get intimately in touch with their emotional burdens. These burdens may have been passed over to them through several generations on either side of the family. There may be a karmic aspect to it, meaning that the same issue gets repeated over and over again until the quote spell is broken. And I will tell you, in my life, I can see where lots of that is the case. For me personally, a couple of years ago, I saw for the first time how I actually had been a Democrat, a generational Democrat, because I couldn't understand why I was a Democrat. Because for the very first time, I started paying attention to politics, and I was like, well, I could see where I might have thought that was a good plan at one point, but when I stopped paying attention to the arena of politics, which was around Perot, I just didn't tune into that anymore because I knew at that point that it was all rigged. It was a game. It was, two wings of the same bird, so to speak, right? See, I tell you that because I saw that as a generational programmed condition that I never gave a thought to, that was absorbing uh, this karmic aspect. And I don't know what that is, but over and over until the spell is broken, until somebody sees. Oh, okay. So and it's not just that too, it's other things, anything that folks think is generationally visited, right, upon a family. Even illnesses are tied to something, I think. This you may call family karma. There may be issues relating to an unbalanced male or female energy, energies resulting from old slavery traditions, issues pertaining to certain illnesses. That's what I said. I know I see now where it just flashed to me why I present in such a assertive, masculine way. I feel I have a masculine tinge to my feminine energy. Don't get me wrong, I love being a woman. Not my point here. I also have said that I got the big brass balls. Don't make mistake. I joked one time that I needed a wheelbarrow to tote my big heavy brass balls around it. But at any rate, what I'm trying to say here is that I see now very clearly that that was a because I see what I do. There's like a pendulum aspect to my personality where when I see a thing, I swing all the way over to the other side, I guess, to get a feel for what's right or wrong over there before I end up sort of in the middle of the seesaw kind of thing. You know what I mean? It's what it feels like to me when I feel into that for myself. There may be issues relating to an unbalanced male or female energy, energies resulting from an old slavery tradition, issues pertaining to certain illnesses. In my case, the absence of a father from the home. My mother didn't have her father in the home. All of those sorts of things. I can see why that might bring me a little more forward in my masculine. This kind of karmic burden is solved when the energy stuck inside of it gets released and thus is not passed along to the next generation. There's been a lot of talk about this by resolving what has carried over in my cellular DNA. Had I been able to, of course, we're not linear, so family karma is resolved when at least one member of the family breaks the link by setting herself free from the emotional burden she absorbed from childhood and that may even be in her genes. The family member who, quote, breaks the spell does so first and foremost by helping herself. It is about being focused on your own inner growth and expansion. This growth and expansion has an effect on the quote energy of the family. Yes, and it moves up and down the timeline as well, I feel. It opens up the possibility for members of that family to find the way out as well. The light worker who has freed himself of the emotional dead end alley provides an energetic trail for others of his family and the collective, I might add. This he accomplishes by his inner work and what he radiates because of that, not by actually trying or even pushing others to change and move forward. What she offers her birth family energetically is the possibility of change. Wow, I have to point this out specifically to someone because I heard those words coming out of uh, Lisa's mouth just the other night. Very interesting. Her energy mirrors the possibility of change to them, and that is all she needs to do. Whether the family members pick up on the trail is entirely up to them. Never are you responsible for, nor is your spiritual mission dependent upon someone else's decision to change or not. You may have freed yourself of the karmic burden that your family saddled you with and be ridiculed or rejected for it by your family. And yet your mission will have been entirely successful. You will have crushed the hypnotic hold that karmic patterns can have over a family line. And if you have children, the emotional burden will not be passed along to them. This is what your soul mission is about. Imagine you are living in a valley, which is quite barren and dry. All of your community tells you that you cannot get out of this valley. It is all there is. You seem to be the only one to remember that there are much more lush and fertile lands than this. So, after a lot of consideration, you decide to try your luck and climb out of that valley. The climb up takes a tremendous amount of strength and energy. Not only is the road very steep, there are no road signs or marks to hold on to either. While you are climbing up, you leave a track behind you. At some point, you come up out of that valley, and the landscape that lies before you overwhelms you with joy and a sense of recognition. You knew there was something out there that felt much more like home than your birth ground. Enthusiastically, you peer down and look for your family. You would like them to join you and marvel at this great vista. You would like to share your victory, but you can see no one down there. And when you notice some folks far off, they do not seem interested in your journey at all. This is what happens frequently to lightworker souls. I ask you not to mourn the loss of your family in this respect. You will have offered them a great service by walking out of the valley, by clearing the way and leaving a track. This track will stay there, and it will be used one day by anyone who wants to climb out of that particular valley. The track is an energy space that you have made available for them. It's not the way. Understand that. Not everybody, but a lot of folks think that they have found the way and that they know the answers. And the thing of it is that each journey is individual and unique. That's why I love the way Jeshua puts it in this. A space has been made available for you to now experience your own journey up that track. And this is all metaphor, of course, but boy, oh boy, it certainly fits. It is the building of this track that was your purpose when you were born with these parents and in this family. It is not your purpose to make your family go up as well or to carry them out of the valley on your own shoulders. That is not your task. Whenever you try to figuratively drag your parents or family, and I'll say anybody else, that's why I said there are no hostages on my journey. None. I don't demand anybody do anything. That's a power over other move that I'm not down with no more. So, whenever you try to figuratively drag your parents or family up that steep hill, you are hindering your own growth and you will be disillusioned and disappointed. It is not the way of spiritual growth and alchemy. Those others that you love and want to share your light with may choose to live in the valley for another century or more. It is up to them. But one day, in their own time, they will uncover a little track that goes up and they will think, hey, this is interesting. Let's go up and try this. I'm not having a good time down here anymore. And off they go. They will start their own journey of inner growth, their own climb into the light. And isn't it wonderful? Isn't it absolutely precious that they will find marks along the way, a track for them to hold on to? They will have to go through their own struggles, but they will have a beacon set out for them, which lightens their journey. As a pioneer, you will have cleared the way through a wild and unknown territory, and the road paved by you will be used with gratitude and honor. I don't know, but that's that I really do see energetically what this is speaking to and why I know that my mission is my quest. It's only my quest, but it and being done in company with everybody else who's doing their own quest, that's just delicious. That's just like oh, I don't know, whipped cream topping or something. You know what I'm saying? It's just the bomb.com, whatever they say these days, or if they don't, I don't know. To be really free and to regain your mastership as an independent spiritual being, you have to let go of your birth family. You have to let go of them, not only as their child, but also as their parent. Let me explain this double bind. The child in you needs to let go of the hope that your parents will offer you unconditional love and safety. It has to turn to you for this, and you have to help it let go of the angry, sad, and disappointed part of the child that feels betrayed by your parents. This is the child part. However, you also need to let go of the part of you that wants to be your parent's parent. It is typical of light worker souls that at some point when they grow up, they start to feel like they are the parents of their parents. I think this is true. Um, well, it says light worker souls, and I have no way of knowing who's a light worker soul and who's not. To be honest with you, I think everyone has that opportunity. But I guess this speaks specifically to starseeds. I don't know the truth of any of that. So maybe that's what that is for me. It is typical of the light worker souls that at some point when they grow up, they start to feel like they are the parents of their parents. I know that my son tends to act like he thinks he's my dad, but he always did that actually, even from the time he was a little boy. Because of their inborn desire to teach, they are the parents of their parents. No, wait a minute. Because of their inborn desire to teach and heal and their developed spiritual awareness, they often see their parents' fears and illusions clearly, and they want to heal them. And I know that's true because I was always talking to my grandma about how she went to church every Sunday, and Wednesday too, if she could. She belonged to everything at her church. I went to church too, don't get me wrong, but I was the best little Christian going. But But grandma could not forgive people for nothing. If you wronged her, she held a grudge. I said, Grandma, Jesus teaches us to forgive. I was constantly, even when I had left the church, that was her gig. And wow, now I see that's where I developed the saying Sunday go to meeting Christians, because that's what I kind of felt like my grandma was, right? She didn't actually buy into all the principles, apparently, you know what I mean? She was there out of fear, is what it feels like to me in this moment of now. So, yeah, I really saw myself just then trying to educate my grandma as a little kid about her thoughts and feelings about forgiveness. Wow. This may get you into a lot of struggle with your parents because of your desire to help them is often intertwined with an unconscious need to be recognized for who you really are. In other words, the wounded child speaks through you when you try to help your parents. And it is a recipe for disaster when you try to help others through the wounded parts of you. This is another reason why I feel like keeping it right here is all I can do. I am not here to heal anybody but me. I don't think any of us really are. We can, like I said, assist each other. You will end up more wounded, and your parents will likely end up upset or confused, and I'm going to say, or both. To let go of your, because I know I have confused the crap out of my child. He thinks things about where I'm at in my consciousness right now that I never said, and I don't know where he got these ideas. So I no longer do any of that. To let go of your parents means to let go of any desire to change them. You have to understand that it is not your task to lead them anywhere. It's a power over other move within me. That's why I call it that, because I don't know what that soul came here to experience. I know what I was told that my child came here to experience. Now, on some levels of me, I don't want that for my child. But at another level of me, he is a creator. He is eternal. And he gets to decide how he wants to move through this existence, not me, not whatever misconstrued ideas I have about how he wants to experience his creative expression into this realm. I mean, that's the ultimate slap in the face to a creator. I feel like I get it now. I understand that like I've never understood that before. That is why I see that you have to understand that it is not your task to lead them anywhere. That's an assault on their own sovereignty. Your mission is to deal with your own path. That is all. After you have truly parted with your parents, I'm saying this to myself, y'all, so just be clear. Um, After you have truly parted with your parents or anyone else, letting go of the double bind, you will find that a new space opens up between you and them. And I feel like that is true. Much more free and open. If they are still alive, the relationship with your parents may become less strained, as the energies of reproach and guilt will have left the scene. On the other hand, you may feel you do not want to visit them so often. I can love somebody from a distance. I don't have to be in their presence, right? I mean, it's like I said, my energy is uncomfortable. It's not, and that's why I wait for the invitation. I've explained that to him, but I don't know if he gets it. There may simply be a lack of common interests. In case you feel more free in this relationship, setting your own course through life, in any case, you will feel more free in this relationship, setting your own course through life without the need for approval by them or the tendency to get angry and upset if they do not agree with you. In your life, you may now get in touch with people who belong to your quote spiritual family. That's the whole when the student is ready, the teacher appears kind of energy, right? Your spiritual family has nothing to do with biology, genes, or heredity. It is a family of kindred souls. Often you know them from past lives in which you bonded through friendship, love, or a shared mission. It is very easy to get along with them, for you share an inner likeness. You belong to the same family. It is a kind of homecoming you experience. What made you feel different and lonely among other people first now becomes the foundation of your connection and mutual recognition. This is why a lot of times when you meet others that you feel an instant kinship with when on this questing path. There's a frequential match that happens. I think the frequential match happens for everybody. I didn't see that I was actually attracting the characters into my life that I was attracting until Lisa helped me see how they were my frequential match. Bonding with your spiritual family is a true source of joy in earth life. Yes, it is. The key to allowing it into your life is to find your own way, quote, out of the valley and to recognize the light within. When you are able to recognize your own light in an environment that does not mirror it back to you, you become independent and free. And I do not know why I didn't mark that the first time because boy, oh boy, that is an important point right there. I am going to actually the key to allowing, and we meant bonding with your spiritual family is a true source of joy in the earth life. The key to allowing it into your life is to find your own way out of the valley and to recognize the light within. When you are able to recognize your own light in an environment that does not mirror it back to you, you become independent and free, unburdened by the karmic aspects of your history, the fears and illusions that held you down. You will you will attract relationships into your life which are based on love and respect and which reflect your awakened divinity. That is the frequential match that Lisa has helped me see. Because I used to have this saying. First of all, I would say I could be in a room full of great folks and end up with the one asshole in the room, romantically speaking. Room full of great guys, and I go home with the asshole, the only asshole in the room. And that was, and but Lisa helped me see that there was a frequential match there. You know, he was holding a similar opinion about himself that I was holding about myself, and it was an attraction. Wasn't until I was no longer a frequential match that I was done then attracting those sorts of folks in my life. Well, that was the end that last paragraph there, wow. Uh, it really speaks to exactly where I'm at in these moments of now. So I hope you've enjoyed this very long chapter, letting go of your birth family. I hope that you will move towards that which brings you joy in each moment that presents itself to you. If you felt compelled to do any sorts of comments and you don't see them right away, just know that I uh, hold all comments so that I can read them. Um, if I don't, I'm generally not notified about comments. That's why I hold them so that I can approve them. And I do, I approve all comments. So, except for the ones that have their spam. I've been spammed a couple of times with like porn stuff. Now that's not happening so much anymore, but then again, I haven't been on for very much. So at any rate, I love you all so very much, and I'm thankful for your presence. And if you are not subscribed and you would like to do so, we would love to have you. And until next time, I hope that you will be well, my friends.